It's been a while since I got behind this mic and in front of this camera, and we've got a lot of catching up to do. Let's be honest, there's only really one place we can start, and there is only one man we can start with. Major League Baseball's newest pitching phenom, Paul Skenes of the Pittsburgh Pirates. There's a lot of P's in that sentence, but it's very much worth it. He's been the centre of attention in his first two Major League starts, and he's about to be the centre of attention of this Power Rankings video. So let's not waste any time, and let's talk baseball. Good afternoon and good evening, and welcome to this edition of Let's Talk Baseball. I'm your host, Tom Skenes. It's been a long while, as the Stained song goes. It's been a while since I was in this position, talking to this camera, talking to you, talking into the mic, reading the notes. There's no hat today. It's raining outside, so what better to do than this? Focus on baseball. It's been a while since I've really delved into the league and seen what's been happening with it in recent weeks, but my good God almighty, a lot has happened and a lot of attention has been put on one man. Rightly so, but we'll get onto that in a minute. Of course, with these videos, we're going to look at the 30 teams, who ranks where in the Major League Power Rankings, and instead of doing what I normally do, which is go through every team and make some kind of comment about them, we're going to pick teams, because we're slowly getting into that part of the year where the positions of each team is being made and it's being finalised. And, you know, with all due respect, there's no point in banging on about the White Sox or the Rockies or the Marlins or the A's as of yet, because we know what position they're in. We know what the situation is with these teams. So instead of going through every team, we're going to find each story each week and kind of take some time into looking at that story, making it worthwhile, and just seeing if, you know, what the big points of the week are, what the big points of the season have been so far. Just clearing up space here, man. Clearing up space. You know, the Angels are still floundering. It's really sad. One of the problems that we have in this sport is that it can become very quick that games become meaningless, and it's a problem I have with Major League sports in America, with the exception of the NFL, because they haven't got as many games. But we've reached a point in the season already where teams like the Nationals, who are floating around just under 500, they're not fully under 500, but they are under 500, and it's not a great position to be in. You look again, the teams that we mentioned: the 19-29 Angels, the 19-30 A's, the 16-33 Marlins. Their seasons, barring a complete turnaround and complete miracle, are essentially done. And I hate that, because it does make you kind of look and think, I feel for the fans. It's the same with, like, the Cardinals are in a similar position to the Nationals, where they're just under 500. They're not horrendous, they're not awful, but they're under 500 enough for people to look at them and think, what's happening here? What's the direction going to be? With the Nationals, they've got a lot of young players. They've got players like CJ Abrams and Mackenzie Gore, who came over in the Juan Soto trade. They're the guys that people are floating towards and they are gravitating towards because they have a future behind them. You look at the Cardinals, and it's not the same. You know, their rotation ERA is 25th in the entire league with 4.82. It's not good enough. It's not good enough for this team. The Reds are another one where it's kind of Ellie De La Cruz gets a lot of attention and he gets a lot of plaudits for how talented he is, but the team is not in a good place. It's not and this is the problem with it. A lot of these teams are not awful. The Reds are not awful, but they're just in that kind of purgatory zone of not quite bad enough to be out of it completely. Not out of it to the point where the season's done, but not good enough where people can be like, okay, it's fine, they'll turn it around. They'll be hovering in and around 500. That's just what they are. 22nd on the Athletics Power Rankings is the Pittsburgh Pirates with a 22-26 record. 5 minutes into this recording, we're going to completely take a detour from the rest of these teams. Because there's only one person we need to talk about. There is only one man in the Pirates organisation that deserves this attention right now. Paul Skenes. Wow, what a player. I'm going to read you Bob Nightingale's opener from USA Today not too long ago. He is the greatest show in baseball. He is the Dwight Gooden of 1984. He is the Kerry Wood of 1998, and he is the Steven Strasburg of 2010. He is Paul Skenes, the Pittsburgh Pirates' phenom. The 21-year-old has made 2 big league starts and already has us scrambling around to make sure we clear space in our calendars. Skenes is that electrifying, striking out 18 batters in just 10 innings, lighting up the radar gun with 19 pitches clocked at 100 miles an hour or higher. In his most recent start, he pitched 6 no-hit innings at Wrigley Field, striking out the first 7 Chicago Cubs batters he faced. And to think, we came terrifyingly close to completely missing the show. He then goes into how Skenes was part of the Air Force Academy, and he wanted to be a pilot, and all of these kind of things. He then transferred to LSU, became the number 1 pick, received a $9.2 million signing bonus, and has so many people clearing their schedules and clearing their calendars and just making way to watch this guy perform. This is what AJ Hinch said, the Detroit manager's manager. It's amazing how his life would have been a lot different, and our exposure to him in the big leagues would have been a lot different had he stayed at the academy. It makes you wonder how many other 100-mile-an-hour arms are in the academy that we should have found. And I tell you what, that's one of those ones where it happens all the time in sports, where one person comes out of a situation and comes out of an academy that, or a situation that you don't expect them to, and then everybody turns around and says, "Well, maybe we should look there more." And it's like, not everybody's Paul Skenes. Not everybody. You go to the favelas of Brazil expecting to find Neymar. You're going to be disappointed. You might find a very talented player, but if you go in there looking for the next Neymar, you're not coming out with the next Neymar. Argentina had that problem when they spent years and years and years trying to find the next Diego Maradona and appointing and anointing all these young central attacking midfielders with the tag of the new Maradona. There was like 5 new Maradonas until one guy became the first Lionel Messi. And now everybody is the Iranian Messi. All of this kind of stuff. You will find this with any situation where a guy comes out of an unusual route and they all start to kind of go, oh, maybe we should have paid attention to that more. Hindsight's great. But instead of focusing on that kind of thing, let's just focus in on how freaking good this guy is. We read out the stats there of 6 no-hit innings. He left in the 6th inning because they are obviously holding him to innings restrictions. And yeah, he's now become. I think I've said it before on this show, on this channel, about players who are appointment watch players. Every sport has them. LeBron James was one when he came through. Shohei was one. Aaron Judge was one. Mike Trout was one. I think Bryce Harper probably was one when he first started. Players like Carmelo Anthony and Patrick Mahomes is now, and all of this kind of stuff, where you look at it and just think, anything can happen here. You're watching this event knowing anything can happen. And Paul Skenes is one of those guys. It's very unique with baseball because you have to be very patient with it. You're not going to get a 40-yard screamer into the top corner, or a 60-yard Hail Mary throw to his wide receiver, or like 10 3-pointers in a row, or something like that. You have to be very patient with what you see, and the performances are very understated, certainly for a pitcher, because things like 100 miles an hour pitches make people go, wow. Nasty sliders and change-ups that fool the batters, they also make people go, wow. But for people that watch this sport regularly and people that understand pitching, and I've heard Dallas Braden talk about this on the Baseball is Dead podcast, it isn't so much the 100 miles an hour pitches or the strikeouts or anything like that. They're obviously impressive. It's the confidence and assurance he has in himself in his first 2 major league starts. He retired the first 13 batters before walking first baseman of the Cubs, Michael Busch, in the 5th inning. He was the only base runner to reach off of Skenes, and he struck out 11 overall. To do that in your second in your second major league start is sensational. Yes, there was a lot of comparison between him and Steven Strasburg, because there was a lot of hype around him when he came up, and that was well deserved. And there was a lot of hype around Paul Skenes when he came up. And right now he has been... I think we have to be careful with how we talk about young talent like this, but in the first 2 major league starts, he's warranted the attention that has come his way, and he has warranted the hype around him. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be the next Max Scherzer, or the next Justin Verlander, or the next Clayton Kershaw, anything like that. He's going to be the first Paul Skenes, and that's all that matters. As long as he can find his rhythm, and find his niche, and find his things that make him work and tick, and all the superstitions that go along with being a pitcher, and all the things that make people want to watch you as a pitcher, and all the things that make batters want to hate facing you, the same way they did with Gooden in 84, the same way they did with Wood in 98, the same way they did in Strasburg in 2010. As a young pitcher, you have to find ways to get into the head of these other guys. And so far, Skenes is on the way to that. He will be on innings restrictions because he's a young arm and it's a smart thing to do. And I think the benefit of being in this new age of social media, I say new age, it's been about 15 years, but the benefit of being in a world like this is it almost doesn't matter if the team does well, as long as he himself performs well, because people will recognise that. People have recognised that Paul Skenes has been a fantastic player already in these 2 starts, and people aren't paying that much attention to the Pirates. Rightly or wrongly, they're not. They're paying attention to the Pirates because of Paul Skenes. They're paying attention to the Pirates to watch him. But when he isn't pitching, you don't hear a peep about them. But I don't know why that is, but it is what it is. So yeah, I'm really excited to see him. To see him perform more. Skenes' 7 strikeouts to begin a game set a record for a Pirates pitcher, and was second most behind Jim Deshaies. I've completely butchered that, but you know, he struck out 8 batters in 1986, and Jacob deGrom 8 in 2014 for the longest run by a rookie in MLB history. It's also tied 5th. It also tied the 5th longest streak to start a game in big league history. The all-time record is shared by Mickey Welch in 1884 and Pablo Lopez in 2021. Skenes' 18 strikeouts through the Cubs outing are tied with Nick Maddox in 1907 for the most by a Pirates pitcher over his first 2 career starts. Skenes threw 12 pitches at 100 miles an hour or faster on Friday, while sprinkling in his secondary pitches as part of a dominant performance. He became the 5th rookie pitcher since the mound was extended in 1893 to have 10 strikeouts and no hits allowed in a game. Afterwards, he was reminded that Major League Baseball was supposed to be hard, and he replied very quickly with, "Yeah, that's what they said." The guy is on track to being a superstar. He already has the attention of baseball fans, and it won't be long until more casual fans start to pay more attention to the pitching phenom that is Paul Skenes. The Blue Jays are floating around the 20 spots alongside the Mets, who... There's a lot of people who are very angry at the Mets right now. And I think it's funny, because this is just what the Mets do. This is the Mets all over. Mets fans will always go online and moan. Mets fans will always kind of have something to moan about. And I don't normally like these comparisons between other sports, like English football and American sports, because I think there's a lot of nuance behind them that kind of ruins it a bit. But the Mets kind of remind me of like Everton or Tottenham in the sense, and I'm a Tottenham fan. So it's like, I can have a go at my team, but you can't, okay? The Mets, anytime they look like they're progressing well, something always happens and ruins their day. Edwin Diaz was injured in the World Baseball Classic last season, missed the entire season, and came back and everybody was hyped. The guy's come back and has been relegated from the closer role because he's been that bad. They started off with no expectations, did quite well, still had no expectations. They are currently 21 and 26, and they're just average. The Mets are just average. I've seen people on WFAN who are Mets fans and criticising players like Francisco Lindor for making a good play and then bowing to the crowd. And then this is the hallmark sign for a Mets season. Hallmark sign for it. It happens all the time. They always find something to be very, very unhappy about because something always happens to make them very, very unhappy. The reasonings behind them, people can talk about them for the rest of the time. But for the Mets, this is a middling year. This is not the year to get angry at it. This is the year to kind of bypass it all. Let it roll. Let it happen. Whatever happens, happens. Next year is the one. Because you've got so many people saying that the Mets are going to go for Soto, King Cohen, and the checkbook Steve Cohen is going to go out and sign all these players. That's all well and good. It's all well and good throwing money at these players. Someone like Juan Soto is not going to want to play for the Mets if you're crap. No, I'm not saying he's going to join the other side of New York. Absolutely not. That might not happen. What I'm saying is, he sure as hell isn't going to the other side of New York. He isn't going to Queens. Because if they don't put together a winning team, it doesn't matter how much money they throw at him. He wants to make a lot of money, and he wants to win. And the Mets are not in a position to win anytime soon. Tigers at 19, 18 are the San Francisco Giants. The 17, 16, 15 teams are the Diamondbacks, Red Sox, Rangers. The Rangers have been really odd this year. I got a comment on one of the videos last time where they kind of said, why are you not talking more about the Rangers? Because they're not really doing anything to catch my attention. They're fine. They're an okay team. They're not amazing, but The Astros are still 21 and 27, down at 14, 13 for the 25 and 25 San Diego Padres. The Cubs, 26 and 22, are 12th, 11th are the Twins, 10 for the Royals, 9 are the Rays, who are slowly getting back to a very good team again. And at 25 and 24, they're performing very well. to the level that many people kind of expected them to, because that's just what they are. They always find a way to, no matter how the chips may fall, they always find a way to put together a competitive team. It may not win, but it's always competitive. 8 are the Mariners, who are a very sneakily good team. 26 and 22. I've just seen them beat the Yankees 2 times in 2 nights. Yeah, they're a team that you don't want to play, because that pitching staff is horrendous for the other team. They are annoying so much to play against, because they have hitters who can hit well, and they have a pitching staff that, when they're on top form, can really frustrate you. So you don't really want to come up against this team. Again, another sneaky team that we didn't expect to do very well at the beginning of the season are the Brewers. 27 and 20, they're 7th in the list. 6th are the 31 and 17 Guardians, who have been, again, surprisingly good. It's got to the point now, I've said surprisingly good so often. Are these teams surprisingly good, or did we just underestimate the lineups they had and the situations they found themselves in? I'm more leaning towards the first one, because you can't be that wrong so many people can't be that wrong about so many teams so many times. The Braves, 27 and 17. They've fallen off a bit of a cliff recently. They've not been their usual best. They've not been the Braves that we know they can be, and the Braves that we expect them to be. But good God Almighty, they're still a good team. They're still missing Spencer Strider, but they always will. They always will. 4th are the Orioles, 29 and 16. 3rd are the Phillies, who are very, very good this year. I saw people kind of talk about the Phillies and be like, actually, are they that good? Or did we underestimate them? I don't think I underestimated them. I thought they'd be well in contention with the division. Admittedly, I didn't think they'd win the division, because I thought the Braves would be performing better than they were, and I didn't expect Spencer Strider to be out for the season. But with that caveat in it, with the caveat of Spencer Strider being out for the season, well, if you'd have told me that at the beginning of the year, I probably would have had the Phillies still not winning it, but performing at this level. I would have had the Braves doing better than they are now, but I would have had the Phillies doing roughly around the same as they are now, 34 and 14. They're one hell of a team. They deserve a bit more respect, I think. They're a fantastic team. You wouldn't want to play them, and I think that's the best way to look at some of these teams. Is if you were in the postseason against the Phillies, would you want to play them in a Game 7? The answer is no. You might beat them. You might put together a team that could beat them, but it's not guaranteed. Not the same way that you'd want to play the Rangers again, or you'd want to play the Astros at the moment, or you'd want to play somewhat like the Guardians, the Rays, the Mariners. You'd want to play them, because if you're a top team, you're confident that your team is, over the course of 7 games, and the course of a 7-game series, that they are better than them teams. But the Phillies, it seems like the Phillies and the Orioles, where they're outrageously good teams. And we go to the top 2, who are the front runners of the league, and I think they have been all season, are the Yankees at number 2 with 33 and 16, and the Dodgers at 33 and 17. The Yankees are only going to get better, because Garrett Cole is coming back. He's slowly getting back to full fitness. Jason Dominguez is on his way back. He'll probably be back around August, September time. And I think the best thing is that they don't need to rush Dominguez back into action. I think Cole, you have the American League Cy Young in your ranks. You're going to want him to play as soon as possible, but not to the point where you want to ruin the rotation or ruin him. You've got to manage him better, and it's thankful that, by and large, the rotation of the Yankees have done very well. Nestor Cortez hasn't looked great, but then there's been a headache in recent weeks about when Cole does come back, who gets moved away, who gets moved out of the rotation. And the fact that if you'd have said to people at the start of the season that a rotation of Nestor Cortez Jr., Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, Lewis Hill, and Clark Schmidt that's your 5-man rotation, and you've got to May into June, and you're going, which one's going to be moved down? I don't know. To make room for Garrett Cole, they'd have laughed. You'd have been laughed out the building. You'd have been laughed out the building. And I think this level of perspective of they're doing really, really, really well at the moment. They are playing far better. It's a completely different team from last year. The vibes are completely different. Players like Soto and Verdugo and Stroman have completely changed the feel around the place. That makes you feel that more often than not, they could probably beat 9 times out of 10 anybody in the league. And I think, you look at people on Yankees Twitter, which is not the best way to evaluate a fan base of any fan base. But if you look at the people on there, they just need to take a step back and evaluate the team and the situation they're in. We're recording this on the 22nd of May. Anything can happen. Absolutely anything can happen, right? They're not an awful team, as I've seen some people suggest after the loss to the Mariners last night. They are not about to head into a slump, because these things happen in the league. These things happen. You can lose games. The Dodgers have lost games against the Nationals. They're not an awful team. They're probably the best team in the league. These things just happen. And fans are emotional. I 100% get it. But come on, man. Come on. Just have a bit of perspective. Judge is hitting well. Torres is actually he's improving a lot. The rotation is doing quite well. Barring the other night's collapse against the Mariners, Clay Holmes has been lights out. Verdugo's been fantastic. Soto has been the best player in the American League by a long shot, in my opinion. Giancarlo Stanton has surprised a hell of a lot of people with how he's hit so far. Trevino has made people proud of how he's performed and how he's kind of taken over the situation of the catcher's position. Rizzo is performing very well. It's fantastic to see. Volpe it looks like he's matured again and he's taken a step forward. It's a very good team and it's a very good situation, and there is not that many things to be annoyed at unless you want perfection, in which case you're in the complete wrong sport. I can imagine Dodgers fans are exactly the same. They probably went into complete meltdown mode after them 17 losses they've had, but they're a hell of a team. I know the league would love to have a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. It would be superstar versus superstar, huge market versus huge market, East versus West. They'd love it. They'd absolutely love it. And for the first time in many, many years, certainly since 2017, this looks like it's set to be the two front runners, going by the records, going by how they're performing at the moment, of the World Series. I'd love that more than anything, because how fun would that be? I just want to see the Yankees in the World Series. My first year supporting the team was in 2009. Had nothing to do with that World Series team. I didn't know barely anybody on that team. But to have them go up against the Dodgers in a World Series would be sensational. That's just a quick run through of everything that's happened in the past week or so of Major League Baseball. We've delved a lot into Paul Skenes. We've delved a lot into the Yankees. I'm slowly getting out of breath. I don't know if you can hear it outside. It is pouring down with rain. Pouring down. So I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to turn the lights off. I'm going to switch the mic off a little bit. Oh, I didn't want to whisper that sound. That's probably getting to the wrong part of YouTube there. But this has been Let's Talk Baseball. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment below if you've heard anything that makes you go, oh, he's got a good point, or what's this loser on about? It's entirely up to you. But just remember, have a nice day.